This show is brought to you by Directory.com, the safest way to hire a contractor.
And we are back. Next, we're gonna go to Montana Ponzi scheme story. Robert, what's the story?
So a Montana builder has been convicted of running multiple fraud schemes that cost victims more than $2 million. Brett Morey promised custom homes, real estate investments, and business opportunities, but spent the money himself. Now he faces decades behind bars. So the case details is Brett Morey conned investors, lenders, and clients, making different lies and promises to each of them. He used multiple company names, including Bitterroot, Timber Frames, 3 Mile Creek, Post and Beam. There's at least 14 victims across Montana, New York, Utah, and Louisiana. Morey promised them custom timber frame homes. Clients across several states paid Morey to build their dream home or dream homes, and many paid 6 figures up front. Real estate development investments, investors gave Morey funds expecting returns from land development or construction deals, business opportunities, and short-term loans. Some were promised quick repayment with interest if they fronted the money for projects in progress. So what really happened? Most projects were never started or abandoned. Morey used the funds for personal expenses, debts, and to string along other victims. He gave misleading updates, excuses, and sometimes produced fake documentation. New investor money was used to pay off earlier obligations, a classic Ponzi-style tactic. So where it stands today, Morey was found guilty in September 2024, convicted on 4 counts of wire fraud and 2 counts of money laundering, and sentencing is pending, with Morey facing up to 20 years for each wire fraud count and 10 years for each money laundering count. Restitution could total up to $1.85 million.
What a story. I want to start with a Ponzi scheme because a couple of years ago I called one of my nemesis, Lee Haight, a Ponzi scheme in the roofing industry, and it started big debate. Robbing Peter to pay Paul, a lot of contractors are saying is not a Ponzi scheme, and people say, Dimitri, you don't know the definitions, you don't know the English, you cannot call it Ponzi scheme, right? I actually just asked ChatGPT if you can call Ponzi scheme, Robbing Peter to Paul business model, and it says when it crosses the line, if a contractor knowingly collects money on new jobs just to stay afloat or cover prior liabilities and has no intention or ability to complete the new work, it can become fraud and might legally be pursued under similar laws used for Ponzi-type crimes. And we actually recently did share the story of actually Lee Haight and his company. He invested Southers in New Hampshire. Attorney General called that business a Ponzi scheme. So I like the definitions are changing a little bit. Rory, what do you think about Montana story?
Well, I know the word fraud too is taking knowingly using it for your own gains too. So there's like another definition when you get into Ponzi scheme and the word fraud and stuff. Yeah, that's it's crazy. It's only 1.2 some million, and I know that is a lot of money. But what was he facing? Decades or years? It sounds like they gave him
up to 20 years. Sentencing is pending, but he's facing up to 20 years for each wire fraud count and 10 years for each money laundering count. Restitution could total up to $1.85 million.
And it sounds federal too, because he was laundering. So it sounds like he was raising money for spec home or some type of crowdfunding, syndicating. Funds. So that's a little different. That's getting into investment frauds and stuff with the real estate, which I've seen here in our area. There was a pretty big one. Actually, I should get that story together for you and send it over. A couple of guys that worked for it that I trained as a wholesaler real estate came over from this office over in Bellevue, and came down as a Ponzi scheme. It was in the paperwork. Ponzi scheme, fraud is a pretty big one.
Guys, you're as a contractor, what do you think leads to this? As a contractor, you're managing people's money. Here's a thought for you. Here's what I want to discuss. Oftentimes we say that, it's a pure evil, it's greed, it's stealing, right? So we portray those guys as a bad guys. Here's my thing. As I was reading this story and many others like this, I think it's also oftentimes lack of education. How many contractors we know that, college dropouts or high school dropouts, they never have prior education and they're proud of it. But now you're giving them millions of dollars to manage, hoping that they're going to have good character, financial literacy. I blame a lot of frauds out there on lack of financial education, because if you've never seen the money, you've never been taught how to manage money. Now, you're a hard worker, but are you actually a good money manager? I think that's part of the problem here. Do you agree?
1,000%. I mean, if you don't have mentorship and someone that's been through it, has financial literacy, understanding building a team with people that have that acumen that you don't have. I didn't get through high school. I was typical contractor, knucklehead, built houses and all stuff. I don't know this stuff today, but I have people around me that I'm so grateful for. And then I can humble myself and be mentored, because I haven't done a lot of things that I want to grow to. So I understand that I can get myself in trouble. So I've got to lay down my own understanding. I think Proverbs says, lean not in your own understanding, but acknowledge him in all your way. He'll direct your path. So a lot of it's just humbling yourself. 357, Proverbs 357, and so that's what it requires. We don't know what we don't know.
100%.
There's a ton that we don't know. And financial literacy, people go to college, get degrees, just to understand a balance sheet, an aging report, and P&Ls and all those things. To assume that we know it because we can build a house.
And it's never what it seems. When you look at your bank account, I remember how I hired accounting years ago, and I had a meeting with her. We had $350,000 in my account, but I did not know what my liability was. And she said, Dmitry, you have $20K. I'm like, what do you mean? How can I, you have $20K, you don't have $350,000. But if you don't have a good accountant, if you don't have someone to ask, it feels like it's your money. You earned it. I earned it. I work hard. I put 12, 14-hour days. Robert, how easy it is to commit a fraud in this business?
Oh, it happens every single day. It's I think the statistic was like 56% of home improvement contractors go out of business in the first 2 years or 3 years. And then 96% go out, I believe, or 97% go out after the first 5 years, according to either BBB or I can't remember which one it was. But most of it's because they don't have the time to do the accounting. Something I did when I first started my company, because I also wasn't great at accounting and I didn't have an accountant and bookkeepers and all the staff that I have now, is I created 2 accounts. I had 3. Operating account, which is just paying bills regularly. Then I had a subcontractor account for the subs. That's just in case somebody took the check and tried to do something fraudulent. God forbid, there's only a limit to how much they can take. And then the third account was not my money. It was the customer's money. That money was never touched until we started a project. So if we started the project, I could start paying myself that deposit. But if I didn't start the project, that money stayed on the side. And I think that that's like a safe way to assure yourself you're not touching money. Plus, it also keeps a nice way of holding your bookkeepers accountable to the numbers at the end of the year. If you're especially looking at a cash basis, it's really easy to see how much I make based on beginning balance and end of balance, end of year. And I can tell you 2 times I caught bookkeepers screwing up my books on accident. And, sure enough, they fixed it, but we make all our business decisions based on those books. And that's the other thing. It's that data is really relevant and important. So hiring good bookkeepers in this industry is extremely important.
I have a question for you. Oftentimes, contractors blame homeowners for the reason why they take deposits. They would not work for less than, some of them do 50%. How often do contractors get actually screwed by the homeowners? Because I pay huge respect to anyone in the business who does not take even deposits. And the reason they don't, because they don't want a liability, or they'll only take a first payment when materials are on the job site. But many will say, well, I can't do it if you cannot pay me. And in this case, with this contractor in Montana, he was doing 6 figures up front, and the projects never was started. For me, if I'm a builder, I don't want to even touch the money until I start, right? To keep me liable. But what do you think about homeowners screwing contractors? How often does it happen? Is it a legit question? Can contractors not take big down payments to be profitable?
Yes, as long as they stage everything correctly. So with roofing, it's a little bit different because it's a quick job, typically 1 or 2 days. But if it was like a bigger project, the milestones matter. And saying like, when I deliver this material, here's how much is owed. When I get this point, this is how much is owed. But to answer your question, do homeowners take advantage of the fact that they're holding the money? Yeah, it does happen. It doesn't happen often. It doesn't happen all the time. But unfortunately, it's the story that you remember because it hurts the most. I have customers. We finished a job in October. He had a punch list. He left for Florida. We were respectful of his time. It was $16,000. He comes back. We end up doing all the work, and he's telling us, well, I'm not paying you because 6 months from now, maybe it'll leak. So it does happen. So I understand why people collect the deposit. So I don't shame anyone for doing that. Either or is fine.
Rory, what do you think?
It happens a lot, but it also depends. It also happens the way you sell. I mean, if you sell with a lot of discounts and you have you close them and it's fast, it's a one call close situation, it's going to happen more. And Alex Hormozi talks a lot about this, is like cashing in that goodwill, and if that's kind of how you enter the job, that's how you're going to exit, where they're going to use things, they're going to say, well, I want a discount because of this, or I got another bid after the fact. They want you to match the bid before you start. One thing I do, we won't collect a deposit until we deliver the material. So
That's smart.
It's one way, and we use it kind of as a close, but we get the job that way. But it's also security. We deliver the material, and then it's safe to collect a deposit.
I agree. When we come back after the break, and that sums it up for Montana Ponzi scheme. When we come back after the break, we're going to bring you the good on paper scammer. This one is bad. He scammed over 20 families and businesses in Alabama, and we'll have all the details for you when we come back. This show is sponsored by Contractor Directory. If you ever hired the wrong contractor, you know it can turn into a nightmare. Directory helps you avoid all of that. Every pro is background checked for criminal and financial red flags. And with a $20,000 guarantee on every job, you are protected if anything goes wrong. It's totally free. Just head to directory.com or download the app from the App Store. Directory, the safest way to hire a contractor.